up guys, I'm a fan here, and I'm not MKBHD, but I really love the guy and I love his work, so I'm not trying to imitate him, just for now. And I've been using the Samsung Galaxy S9 for a little over a week now, and here are my thoughts. So what we're going to talk about today is Samsung Galaxy S9. How well is the flagship still being used nowadays, 2021? First of all, this smartphone in particular already has aged a long time. It has been the flagship phone for like many years ago, like 3 years ago to be exact. And among that time frame, a lot of good smartphones have already been released. Getting this S9 in particular is somewhat debatable. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So let's just start off with the positives. So the Samsung Galaxy S9 is a flagship phone 3 years ago. Up until now, I can say that it still stands out pretty well with the current smartphones in our current generation. The thing is the build quality. You see the flagship quality, glass back, this little firm and small grip, this very small shape, and the list of features goes on. The hardware, the software, everything else is flagship. But now everyone knows, the current smartphone standards today are really top-notch and already high spec. The Samsung Galaxy S9 is still able to catch up with its current smartphones today. Not totally catch up, but still, they kind of compete with the same territory. It still kind of belongs in there. Unfortunately, Samsung won't give any more software updates to phones as old as this one. This phone that I have here right now, I have updated to the most latest software. The software update has able to go up to Android 10 and One UI version 2.5. So that is the maximum that this phone is getting. So if you're trying to pick up this phone just for the software, you're not going to get pretty much, of the latest softwares. You're just going to get stuck with whatever the maximum limit the software of these phones tend to offer. Software-wise, it's still very okay. It is okay. The smooth, the transitions, everything else, it's still very modern, flagship, very Samsung-like, and a lot of settings, a lot of advanced features. Still, the software, it's still packing up really great features, really great accessibilities, capabilities, and all of that stuff. I don't think you will have any problems and any complaints when it comes to software, because me personally, it is fine by me. Still, very usable, not bad at all. The cameras, I already made a comparison videos of the cameras with a latest mid-range smartphone and an old flagship. Somehow, Samsung still has the edge on some of the factors, some of the categories when it comes to the camera department. But that doesn't say that the camera isn't good. It is good, but that also doesn't mean that the camera is not bad. Because even the mid-range smartphones in today's generation are already bumping up all of those megapixels. Samsung S9 only has a maximum of 12 megapixels. So you're not getting as much quality, but still, the software, the hardware combinations of the cameras in order to create beautiful shots, it's okay for today's standards. No one is going to complain about this kind of camera quality. This is the main highlight of the Samsung Galaxy S9 is that there's a physical aperture that you can change depending on the condition of the photo you're about to shoot. So it goes up to f2.4 and f1.5, which is only really going to matter if you can see the difference. But you can see the difference. It might be very slight, but it's still a very noticeable difference, especially when you're shooting on low light and on bright light conditions. I have made a comparison video. You should check that out. Another thing again with the camera, able to shoot 4K, slow motion video, and this one is IP68 waterproof rated. That means you can take videos and even photos underwater. So if that's your thing, if you're happy about that, well, Samsung S9 is going to make you happy. Is that it's just not a very high quality. You're only bumping up to 12 megapixels. So that is something to consider once again. Spec-wise, you're looking at a Snapdragon 845 and with 4 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage here, the very basic Samsung S9. When it comes to performance, it is actually just really usable. You won't have any problems when just scrolling around doing stuff. There's really not noticeable negative sides to it. It is just okay, working really smoothly. You're not going to expect very high refresh rate, but it's still very much pretty working. And finally, the best thing about the Samsung Galaxy S9 is the display. Much like any other Samsung phone devices, some Samsung flagships, the display is really top-notch. It's, of course, what else would you expect from the Samsung Galaxy S9? Super AMOLED HDR10 5.8 inches, which is kind of small, but very okay, very compact. The build, you can use it with one hand, it's small, it's simple, very nice, no problems with that. having a resolution of 140 by 2960 pixels, you know, 570 pixel density. That is absolutely huge. So I always have my display resolution at FHD plus, which is 220 by 1080, which is okay. But even if you switch it to just HD plus, which is 1480 by 720, there's still not much problems. I am not really noticing any noticeable problems. It is running okay. You know, there's not really wrong with it. You can't really notice. Yet you will notice, but it's not that very prominent. It's not that very overwhelming. And of course, you're able to crank it up to WQHD plus, which is 2960 by 1440, which is the maximum. It's okay as well, but you'll drain a lot of battery life. Where everything else, the build, the design, the biometrics, the features, it's a go. It's a plus for the Samsung Galaxy S9. It is actually really good, and it's still a very good phone up to date. Really no complaints about that. But now, we're going to the negative side of things, and there's a couple. Let's start off again with the performance. While using the Samsung Galaxy S9, I have noticed there's a bit of occasional hiccups, lags, even just scrolling around on some very highly intensive processor-heavy tasks, such as opening multiple tabs, opening multiple apps at once. You're going to notice a little bit of lags here, so that is something to reconsider. Of course, you only have 4 gigs of RAM, a Snapdragon 845, and it's a 10 nanometer. So, well, not really the greatest specs, of course, for a very old flagship phone like this. So, I am somehow noticing all these drops. I don't think there's any way to change that. That's why I put as minimal apps on my phone as possible. When it comes to sound, the audio, this device is built in with a studio speaker setup, wherein the earpiece right here acts as a second speaker. But me, personally, using this device, I don't really notice the sound coming out from the earpiece center. It's like, okay, there's sound, but it's very small and very faint. Not as loud as this one. Maybe it's because of a hardware problem, since this is already a second-hand phone. If your unit has this earpiece working properly, then it might as well sound better. But for me, it's not really that good. Viewing very nice FHD, YouTube. I'm a really fan of this edge screen display, a lot of edge screen shortcuts and features. It's really nice, and I'm a big fan of it. And now another to the negative side of things, I already told you about this, the camera is not as good. There are many features to it, but it's only mostly good on like optimal lighting conditions, like when you're outdoors, when you're outside. If you're something that cares about quality the most, I really would not recommend the camera coming from the Samsung Galaxy S9. Variable aperture is great, but still it all comes down to the quality. You'll still suffer the same quality degrading. Of course, this device is only able to crank up to 12 megapixels of camera. Another thing that I see bad with this Samsung Galaxy S9 is that its storage. Since you're only rocking in 64 storage, which is, by the way, expandable, but if you do not have the availability to expand and just relying on just internal storage on itself, 64 gigs is okay, but it's not really something that you will consider for a main phone. And once again, you have here your half-hearted Samsung bloatware. You have 2 browsers, 2 Play Stores, 1 dedicated Play Store for the Samsung. You have a lot of pre-installed apps in here. Some you really could not uninstall, and yeah, just free bloatware. And we still have Bixby. Yep, Bixby still exists. And yeah, Bixby. There's also this panel at the left side of the home screen, which is not Bixby anymore, but Samsung Free, which is actually weirder and more useless, I guess. I actually prefer Bixby's home panel than this one, but yeah, we have these. And of course, coming up with the performance, as I've told you a while ago, this phone is not really good at gaming. Okay, it's not really going to pump out your gaming performance. It is just going to look good because most of the games I have installed here have this Ultra HD graphics enabled. You can enable them. But again, it stops there. The performance won't be as good. It won't be as fast. Of course, that's the only performance you're getting. The only good thing about games here is the display. And the games will really look good in this kind of display. Which comes me to the very most negative part of the Samsung Galaxy S9. It's the battery. Samsung Galaxy S9, the standard version, not the Plus version, comes in with a 3000 mAh battery. The Plus version has 3500 mAh, and it is really a small battery. Short battery life is actually crazy. Most of the time when I'm using this phone, I use it extensively just for scrolling, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the battery will just quickly degrade, sometimes even minus 20%. Just a few hours of you scrolling, even just a few minutes. Extensive use, FHD quality display, battery saver not turned on, and you will really see how fast the battery degrades. Of course, if you're buying a second-hand Samsung Galaxy S9, the battery must have already degraded. But then again, the Samsung comes with a fast-charging 15-watt charger. Of course, the original one, if you're able to have access to it, I do, I have it, it's very fast. It's not really that fast, but it's acceptable. It's acceptable fast, which is okay in and of itself. But then again, degrading battery, especially if you're I'm not yet even doing games here. The maximum processor app I've used is YouTube, and just watching videos here alone degrades the battery so much. Degrades up to 10 to 20% just from watching a few videos on YouTube, which is actually not so good. Even the always on display, I have the always on display. I will set it up as a night light overnight since 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. and the battery will degrade up to 20% even. I'm already using the battery saver. I actually bought this phone as a secondary phone for travel. It might not be the greatest idea, but one thing I've noticed, if you just put this phone in your pocket, not really using it, you're doing a lot of outdoor activities with your friends and traveling elsewhere, not really picking up your phone to use it, battery lasts more than a day. I tried bringing this with me and going outside, and when I got home, by a long day of not really using it, just all over in my pocket right there, battery saving on, just normal HD display settings, I was able to go home for like 70% or 65, 69%. But suffice to say, if you're a heavy smartphone user, the battery will degrade so much, it can actually quite be annoying. That's why I'm using this phone, just a secondary phone. Then again, this phone is of course really old, degrading battery life, so that is the worst thing about this phone. Battery life. Everything else is great, should have been great, until now, still holds up now, it's kind of great, it's kind of acceptable, but it's the battery life. If the phone dies quickly, then what's the point? You know. So, what's the takeaway? I reviewed this phone today, 2021, to see how it holds up, how it stands out, and this is the takeaway. This is the only thing that I could say about this, is that the Samsung Galaxy S9 is a good phone, but I do not recommend using it as your main phone. I only recommend using it as a secondary phone. It's a good secondary phone. Very simple. You don't need huge tasks with it. Just secondary backup phone. It is very nice today in 2021. Using it as a main phone, battery life, major concern. It will not satisfy you at all. You will actually be disappointed by the battery life. Features, storage, performance, they're okay, but they're not really good. They're acceptable, but I don't think they're the ones that will be suitable for like people nowadays. You know, everyone's that busy at their phones. They need the fastest phone interactions, a huge storage to put everything. The cameras are okay. They're acceptable, but they're not really great. They're not even that good. That's what I've said a while ago. Only 12 megapixels maximum. So that is it. I don't recommend the Samsung Galaxy S9 being a main phone of yours. As secondary phone, it's okay. It's excellent, simple, compact, small, basic, easy, and most importantly, it is a flagship. So a secondary phone as your flagship is not a bad idea at all. Actually, getting a modern mid-range or any other top-tier mid-range as a secondary phone would be great as well, but this is not a bad recommendation either. This is okay. This is great, and I'm using this. It's really good. It's not really that bad. The only problem I have with it is its battery problems. Without the battery problems, I think this phone will still stand out to be a good pick for the current generation, even just a secondary phone, not a main phone. Okay, don't make this as your main phone. Of course, if you're kind of tight to budget, it's all up to you to decide. But that's it. That's my recommendation. Take my word for it. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. See you guys in the next one. Peace.